Have you ever had a moment where time just completely stops? And not in a good way, like a horror movie way. But instead of a monster, it's just a tiny piece of plastic. I'll never forget it. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was standing in line at the grocery store on campus. I had a carton of eggs, a loaf of bread, and a single jar of peanut butter. That was it. The cashier scanned them. The total popped up on the screen, $12.42. I swiped my card, and then that awful, sharp beep from the card reader. The screen just said, declined. The instant sweat that hits your neck when that happens, it's brutal. I remember looking at the cashier, trying to play it cool, laughing nervously. I was like, oh, that's weird. Let me try it again. Swipe. Beep. Declined. I knew why. I knew exactly why. I opened my banking app on my phone, under the counter, and there it was. My current balance, $15. But there was a pending hold for a textbook rental I forgot about. I actually had less than $3 to my name. For the whole week. I had to do the ultimate walk of shame. I had to look at the cashier and say, I'm so sorry. I think something's wrong with my bank. I have to put these back. I walked out of that store empty-handed, and as I walked back to my apartment, in the rain, it hit me. I wasn't just broke. I didn't have a plan. I was trying to live a normal college life on a budget that didn't even feel real. And I realized, if I didn't change something right now, this wasn't just a bad Tuesday. This was going to be my entire life. So I got back to my room, sat at my desk, and just stared at the wall. And honestly, I could have just accepted it, right? I could have just done what everyone else does. Complain about being a broke college student, eat instant ramen for 4 years, stay stressed, stay broke, stay stuck. But sitting there, feeling that knot in my stomach, I couldn't do it. I asked myself one question, and it completely changed my perspective. How do people actually survive college without constantly panicking about money? Like, seriously, I knew there were students who weren't rich. Their parents weren't sending them allowances, but they weren't sweating at the checkout line either. What did they know that I didn't? That question became an absolute obsession for me. I didn't want to just survive anymore. Surviving means you're playing defense against life. I wanted to play offense. I wanted control. So, I took out a blank notebook, a pen, and paper, and I decided I was going to build a system from scratch, step by step. Now, when you want to fix your financial life, the first thing everyone tells you to do is cut back. Stop buying lattes, don't buy the nice things. But let's be real. When you only have $15 to spend on food every week, cutting back doesn't do anything. You can't budget your way out of zero. I realized my problem wasn't just my spending. It was my income. I needed money coming in, but I also had classes at different times of the day, running from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. How was I supposed to work a regular job? That's when I discovered the best-kept secret of college survival: on-campus student employment. I applied for a job at the campus library and the student center desk. And when I got hired, honestly, it changed everything. Think about it. First of all, there were zero commuting costs. I didn't need a car. I didn't need to pay for bus fare. My work site is only a 15-minute walk from my apartment. But the absolute best part, Flexible hours. If I had an exam, my supervisor, who worked for the university, actually wanted me to study. Oh, and the hidden perk? My shifts at the student center often meant there was leftover food from campus events. Free catering, free bagels, free coffee. It wasn't a glamorous job. I was mostly answering phones, sorting books, and cleaning up tables. But it was stable. And let me tell you, when you have been living in total chaos, stability is the most underrated, beautiful thing in the world. So, fast forward a few weeks. I had my first paycheck. It wasn't a fortune, but it was real money. And immediately, I ran into a new psychological trap. When you finally get a little bit of money after being completely broke, you become terrified of losing it. I found myself wanting to just lock myself in my apartment room, turn off the lights, and eat instant noodles just to keep my bank account balanced. I was terrified to go out because going out meant spending money. But I realized that's not living. That's just hiding. So I made a strict rule for myself. I wasn't going to sacrifice my college experience just to save $1. Instead, I had to learn how to live smart. I started looking for what I call $0 experiences. And guys, universities are literally designed for this, if you look closely. I started scanning every flyer, every campus email list. Suddenly, I was going to free student film nights. I found out the music department did free classical and jazz concerts every Thursday. I went to cultural festivals where they literally gave out free food just for showing up. And something really interesting happened to my mindset. I stopped feeling like I was missing out. I didn't feel poor anymore. Because I realized that a lot of the best experiences, the ones where you actually connect with people and make memories, don't actually have a price tag. It just takes a little bit of effort to find them. But none of this would have stuck if I hadn't implemented the biggest rule of all. This is the core of the whole system. I remember reading an old personal finance book around that time, and I stumbled across a classic English idiom that completely changed my mindset. The phrase was, "Pay yourself first." If you've never heard that term before, it basically means changing your entire order of operations. Before that, my strategy was get money, spend it on what I needed, and then try to live within my means and save whatever was left at the end of the month. But guess what? There was never anything left at the end of the month. So I flipped it. The exact minute my campus paycheck hit my account, I did two things. First, I took 10% and moved it into a separate savings account at a completely different bank, so I wouldn't see it when I opened my bank app. That was my never go back to the grocery store incident fund. It was my psychological safety net. Then, I took another 10% and I invested it. Now, look, I know what you're thinking. Sam, you were a college kid making minimum wage. What were you investing? $5? Yes, exactly. It was literally $15 or $20 a paycheck. I put it into a basic index fund. But it wasn't about the amount of money. It was about the identity shift. The moment I started investing, I stopped thinking like a broke student who was just trying to make ends meet until Friday. I started thinking like an investor who was actively building a future. That mental shift is worth more than any paycheck. But I don't want to sit here and make this look like a perfect, easy movie montage. Because it wasn't. Let's be completely honest for a minute. Even with the system, even with the job, it was hard. There were nights, especially in the middle of the semester when exams hit, where I would open my fridge at 11 p.m. and there was just nothing new to eat. Just a bag of white rice, a can of black beans, maybe some instant noodles. Again, for the fourth night in a row. But the hardest part wasn't actually the food. You can get used to eating simply. The hardest part was the repetition. The monotony of waking up, working, studying, counting pennies, and doing it all over again. And honestly, sometimes the loneliness. Watching other people go out to expensive dinners or weekend trips provoked that I just couldn't afford yet. There were days I wanted to throw the notebook away and just quit. But I didn't quit. I stuck to the system, day after day, week after week. And then, about 6 months later, it happened. And it didn't happen with a big celebration or a massive explosion of money. It happened so quietly, I almost missed it. I was back in that same grocery store, same fluorescent lights, same checkout line. I had my basket. I put my items on the belt. The cashier scanned them, gave me the total, and I swiped my card. Approval beep. I took my bags, walked out to my car, and it wasn't until I was halfway across the parking lot that I stopped dead in my tracks. I realized I hadn't checked my bank account before going inside. I hadn't calculated the exact price of the items in my head while walking through the aisles. I hadn't felt that tight knot of anxiety in my throat when the card went into the machine. I was just shopping. No stress, no panic, no fear of the word declined. And that's when it truly hit me. The system worked. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was going to be okay. Looking back now, I don't miss those stressful days. I don't miss the empty fridge. But I am incredibly grateful for them. Because that declined card taught me something that no university class ever could. It taught me that changing your life isn't about waiting for a perfect situation. It's not about waiting until you graduate or get a massive salary or win the lottery. Money, success, peace of mind, it's about systems. It's about the tiny habits you build when no one is watching. It's about what you choose to do with the $15 you have right now. So if you're in a tough spot today, whether you're stressing about money, drowning in schoolwork, or just feeling completely stuck in life, please hear me out. You don't need a perfect situation to start improving your life. You just need a system and the courage to begin. By the way, if you're practicing your English while watching this, and you notice some of those idioms we talked about today, like making ends meet, living within your means, or paying yourself first, I've put a full breakdown of what they mean and how to use them in daily conversation in the description section below. Thank you so much for sitting down and listening to my story today. Leave a comment below if you've ever had one of those reality check moments. Subscribe if you want to see more stories like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.